to Innerstand2Ascend. Today we'll speak about something which came up to me quite spontaneously. I think I was even mentioning that at the end of my show last week. We're going to speak about the free will and conscious boundaries. This is something that's been coming up a lot lately, with where the boundary is when it comes to the actions that you can take towards helping somebody. So I would like to speak about it, and especially if you're wondering, if you're a parent and you're wondering how much you can help your child on an energetic level, how much you can help a family member on an energetic level, and if you're a healing facilitator, what can you do and what is considered a breach of free will from the perspective of the universal law, because that's something that I've been actually learning myself ever since I started my journey. I would say that for as long as I was doing certain clearings for other people, like removing contracts, helping them, or more like I was the one clearing some distortions for them, I would feel more and more depleted. And I sometimes felt like these heavy energies were being projected to my fields. So if this is something that you're experiencing, then the good idea is to actually try to figure out why, where is it coming from? And actually it's coming from the fact that when we do things for other people, when we kind of try to take all this karmic burden on ourselves, we are the ones that actually start to process all of these energetic imprints. And that's why so many healers are either getting sick a lot, or they are just really very much exhausted, or they are just having a difficult life with a lot of different blockages on their way. Well, actually it's not supposed to be the case. If you want to help somebody, you need to be free from the blockages yourself. So this is something that I'm gonna speak about from my perspective and how it can be transformed. We are also going to speak about 3 different types of will, because we've got something called the divine will, free will, imposed will. How does the free will relate in context of the universal laws? What else do we've got? We'll speak about what the tough love is and how you're actually supposed to set your own conscious boundaries when it comes to your own free will choice, and how others might be sometimes interfering with your choices. We'll speak about who the Ilesa Tribunal Councils are and the Magistracy Councils. I will also expand a little bit on the subject that somebody asked me about, and I was thinking for the entire week whether I should mention that or not, but after all I decided to speak about it because it seems like it's something that is quite a topic these days. Like, how does this free will choice relate to the vaccinations? Of course, we speak about it only theoretically, but how does that relate to the topic of the vaccinations, and how does that even relate to the free will, and was there any kind of free will at all in there, and how does it relate to that whole context of the host path that we are now following, because it's actually all interconnected. So I'm going to speak a little bit about it because I actually have like the entire page just written down about it. So I'm gonna read to you an answer that kind of came through from my eternal self. And we'll also speak about like what's the thing with that concept of the destiny. What is a destiny? What is a coincidence? Because actually they are like very, very specific things, and they are very often confused with other things that come up. So I guess I'm just going to begin. We are going to start with what is the free will in context of the universal laws. So the free will choice is an energetic encryption that is being given and embedded into the morphogenetic field structure to every being that comes as individuated essence into internal and external time cycles. Because again, we've got these three different creation domains. We've got the eternal creation, the internal, and the external. And the free will is working in the internal and the external time cycles of creation. Because in the eternal creation, which is the highest out of these three domains, the free will is the same thing as the divine will. I'm gonna come back to this concept in a moment. The universal law of free will is one of the primordial laws of every crystal that decides to seed some life forms on the inside of it. The reason why the free will is being introduced to the experiential hologram is to provide a variety of possible outcomes to enrich the experience so that the source consciousness could learn, grow, and evolve. Once the life is being seeded into various planes of existence by the primal founder essences, all of the beings receive the covenant offer, for example, the Emerald Covenant. And I'm going to explain that in a moment, like what's the thing with that Emerald Covenant. So the Christic Covenant is a guarantee of the divine protection for all those that decide to use their personal free will choice in synchronicity with the divine will of the Aya God source. At the same time, each individuated being has an option to reject the covenant anytime and play with their own rules, while being aware of the tangible existence of the law of the consequence. So, just to explain that in more simple terms, whenever a life is being seeded into a certain, let's say, dimension or a plane of creation, it's seeded by the primal founder essences, like the races that seeded the life into different planets and stellar systems, right? And these primal founder essences, they are pure Christic races, and they are very much aware that the free will choice is a law that needs to exist in order to actually make that entire creation work. So all of the beings that are being seeded into these planets, into these stellar systems, they receive the covenant offer, and one of these, something which we call the Emerald Covenant, this one has been introduced over 950 billion years ago on Lyra, in the Lyra stellar system. And that's actually the covenant that was seeded directly in our time matrix that we reside in. And then this Emerald Covenant was later spread to Gaia and to Tara and then to Earth when the seeding began. So we've had a few Emerald Covenant offers. I call it an offer because actually it's not like a contract that is imposed on you. All of the beings have a choice. As I said, they can take this covenant or they can choose to reject it. And in the moment when they reject it, they decide that they do not want to co-create with the divine will of the God source. And at first, all of the races decided to take this Emerald Covenant offer. And then the reptilians started to reject it. And the reptilians are just kind of a thing for me this week. So I don't know. I just feel like a lot of the reptilians just really want the host these days. And I don't know. I just feel like saying it. If you happen to experience any kind of very, very weird interference of some reptilians coming into your fields or trying to mess with you, just ask them directly, like, do you want this host or what do you want from me? Because it's very possible that they may be kind of hanging in your fields to pick up some of the Christic frequencies. So if you've been experiencing something strange with them, that is very possible that they kind of want the host. Because I think last week there's been something going on with the Borgias where these primal energies were coming into them and they were able to take the host. So I think that there is something going on with the reptilians. I just feel it in the air. Anyways, they rejected that Emerald Covenant at some point of their evolution, and they started to co-create, well, with their own will. They were still using their own free will, but not in the alignment with the divine will. And what does it mean on the first place with the divine will? It's not like, I want to make that clear here what the divine will is. Because actually when we think like this is the divine will, it might be also like coming from all of that programming that we have received throughout the years, that it means that it's basically the will of the God and we must obey. That's not working like this at all. The divine will is actually the love of the God source. I'm just gonna read the definition that I received. So the divine will is the full co-creation with the original primal intention of the Aya God source, 0-point eternal primordial essence. And what does it really mean? So the original essence of the source was to actually keep expanding itself, keep experiencing. As I said in my show last week, the source created all of these different cry stars for a variety of experiences, because the source is already perfect in its eternal nature, but it wants to become even more perfected. It wants to have like a variety of different beings, life forms, energies. And these energies, they interact with each other and they keep creating new, beautiful essences put together. So when we co-create with the divine will, we are actually following that primal intention, that we are willing to be the conscious creators that respect everybody else's free will, and everything that we are doing is intended to serve the highest good. It's intended to keep developing the source nature, and it doesn't mean that we need bipolarity in the universe in order to keep learning and expanding and growing. This is a concept that has been twisted, that the evil needs to be a part of the creation so that we basically keep learning through trying to overcome this darkness. This is like a very, very twisted concept that I simply do not agree with. This is coming from the fact that I do remember the moment when I was still in the fields of the eternal creation. And I do remember that I was learning a lot in there without any kind of conflicts, without any kind of need to kind of try to overcome and then integrate the darkness. There was no need to. There was enough to learn, to create, to explore. You were able to create your own worlds. You were able to just enjoy the beautiful plasma vapors, and there was no need to keep fighting against the darkness. So all the beings in the eternal creation fields, they co-create along with the divine will. And our free will, which is actually like a part of the divine will, it should be in harmony with it. So what is the free will? It's a primordial law of every individuated essence or a being that allows it to decide how it wants to create in externalization, whether it chooses to keep embodying the divine will or act against it. And once a being decides to act against the divine will, it doesn't realize it at first, but it's doing it in order to learn through experience and then again unite with the Aya primordial divine will. And the free will exists in the internal and external creation time cycles. So we are co-creating along with our free will. Not fully, because there is also something called the imposed will. So when one's free will gets broken and the individual is forced to make a decision it didn't originally intend to do, that's when the imposed will takes place. And the imposed will is a breach of the free will and the divine will as well. And it is being used to twist one's personal timeline and change its outcome. So an imposed will has been used against us in order to target us, right? It's a part of the targeting, like a very, very huge targeting. And the imposed will is like a twist, a distortion that is taking place in the phantom and the gonfall systems. In this realm, we have a part of the free will and a part of the imposed will. Like, let's be honest, we don't have our free will 100% in here. There's a little bit of both. And what we are aiming to do in here is to actually learn how to use our free will properly. It's like, we can look at it this way, that our souls agreed for this experiment. And I'm gonna later expand like why I call this an experiment, this experience. But we agreed for this experiment and we don't remember anything. Most of us, we don't even remember that there is something like the free will. It kind of comes on later in different philosophical or religious systems. So we learn about this concept, but actually we need to remind ourselves that we need to use our free will for the highest good of yourself and all of the other beings. And that we need to transform this imposed will, because basically the more sovereign your soul is becoming, the less of this imposed will you're having. And when it comes to the blockages that have been put on our will, I'm going to list a couple, because actually when you're having difficulties to manage in your life, when certain things keep repeating to you constantly, there are certain blockages that are directly also put on your will, where you don't even know, you're not even aware, but you're having all of these layers and these filters on yourself, and they do not allow you for your full expression, right? You want to manifest something, but it's not really working. You're trying to be successful or abundant, but it's not really working for you either. And now the reason is, very often, I'm not saying that that's in every case, but very often there are different filters that you have on yourself. There are a lot of projections, such as I'm not worth it, I don't deserve it. And so why would you get that in your life if you have a filter, I don't deserve it? You're projecting this thought, I don't deserve it, to the universe, and the universe will be like, okay, you don't deserve it, so you won't receive that energy, of course. So we need to look into all of these different aspects of our subtle anatomies in order to actually realize that our will has been a subject of a huge targeting for centuries. And that's not why we don't manifest within hours or even days or even weeks or even months or even years, because of all of these blockages. So let's take a look at what they actually are. So the first one, the first blockage is on the solar plexus. There are all sorts of mental body blockages, different projections, different thoughts that you're having about yourself. If you're having thoughts like, I'm not worth it, or I don't think this is going to happen to me, or there has been so many disappointing things happening to me before that I don't believe this is going to happen. With this approach, you can just do nothing because it's not gonna work out anyways. Realizing what these emotions are, what these thoughts are, and try to actually discover who gave them to you. If they were coming from some other person, just return them to that person who originally gave them to you, whether these were your parents or your friends or your grandparents, or if you were the one who started having such thoughts about yourself, just burn all of these projections or all of these mental projections in the white flame. Try to see where they are in your body, because there's a lot of them in the solar plexus. And something that's been coming up a few times on my sessions lately is that there are these huge black holes right in the solar plexus center or at the back of the solar plexus. And these vortices, they are very magnetic, so they are attracting a lot of energies, a lot of very disharmonic energies. So like you start off with one negative thought about yourself, and then as you keep continuing with this vicious circle, this vortex is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's growing very, very large. And then it's very difficult to close, because you have to close it energetically, but you also have to shift your thinking. Otherwise, this vortex might reopen again if you again start to think bad about yourself. So this is something to realize. But when I'm talking about this and you start to feel already something really, really wrong about your solar plexus, this might be kind of like your body trying to give you signs that there is something to clear and align about the solar plexus. But different thoughts and different projections can be actually all over your body. And then they are also kind of getting activated as different conditions of the disease. The next one, the next blockage on our wheel, it's actually very interesting. Because as I was speaking a couple of times about the religious seals and how they are being passed from one incarnation to the other, where, for example, if you were a Muslim 2 incarnations ago and you never cleared that, it's as if you are still a part of this religion on the energetic level, and you might still have certain blockages in your anatomy. So it's kind of the same situation with the imprints of slavery. So if you happen to have an incarnation where you were a slave, where your freedom was taken away from you and you became someone else's property, this gets saved as a very, very heavy imprint in your body that later doesn't allow you to fully express yourself and be able to be self-sufficient in a financial way, emotional, mental way. So the imprints of slavery is something to look into as well. If you don't have any kind of chains on your hands, any kind of also blockages on your neck, like a very heavy metallic necklace, or any kind of marks on your shoulders, this is something to look into, especially with the chains. Even if you were a prisoner in one of your past lifetimes, you might have chains on your hands, and that doesn't allow you to freely, like from the energetic perspective, you're not, it's also with the hands, you're not able to take the destiny into your hands. You're not able to properly manage your life. So this is one of the aspects of it. Another thing are also the religious seals, because they completely block and twist our energy. And also this basically imposes, if you have any religious seals, it's as if a part of your identity is belonging to that big religious egregore. We also have the ancestral blockages related to suppression, imprints of war, and also all sorts of programming, any kind of spells, magic on the ancestral level that may be also blocking your will. Because if you come from a family where there's been, let's say, some kind of depression being passed like from mother to daughter, but it was coming from like great-great-grandmother, this is something that you're carrying that you need to release. Or any kind of programs, that's any kind of illusions that you were given as a child, where if you kept hearing like you're not worth it, you don't deserve, you are not supposed to do it this way, or you didn't do it well enough, you keep programming yourself in your mental body, and then you actually start to believe it. If you say a lie multiple times, it becomes a truth in your perception. So as I said, just trying to feel where that emotion is in your body. Usually it's either the solar plexus or the sacral. You take this emotion out, you can create like a ball of energy and just put all of these heavy emotions on the inside of it and just send it back to whoever projected that to you, or if you created that projection yourself, burn it in the white flame. Okay. And also in the context of the soul contract, if you didn't fully retrieve your soul contract, you might also have like a feeling like you're stuck, because technically you are still the property of a pope or all of those different world leaders that are not just claiming to be in charge of our bodies, but also our souls. So this is also something to look into. And all sorts of programming coming from the artificial intelligence fields, that might be also pretty much affecting the mental body structure and giving us feelings, giving us different emotions, different thoughts that actually don't even belong to us. All sorts of fear projections, they might be coming from the AI fields that want you to remain on very low energies. Okay. So now, when it comes to the tough love and the conscious boundaries, here's just something I would like to share when it comes to that subject. Being in co-creation means that all of our words, actions, and thoughts affect others, and they affect us. However, in this place of co-creation, there is also a space that you have for yourself. your lone harmonic. If there is anything or anyone that interferes us in this space, we need to have enough power to stand up for ourselves and set our own boundaries. And now, it never comes from ego. So if you are trying, if you're like just, this typical saying like, I just want my peace, well, it's not like you're isolating yourself. Perhaps there is a certain reason why you actually have this urge to be in your own space. Excuse me. So it never comes from ego. The love from source can be soft and gentle, but at the same time, it is the most powerful force in the universe. So the love can be also firm and strong. Tough love is the art of setting your own Christic boundaries and doing that with respect and love towards others, but especially towards yourself. If you want to be at service to others, you need to have your own space to peacefully co-create with yourself and your own authentic essence. If anyone starts to violate your space, the self-love you have towards yourself requires you to protect it. You cannot help others if you are not good yourself. Always keep that in mind. And as somebody said in the comments here, we have to realize that we have that power, indeed. So it's about realizing that the power is in us. You don't have to work with any other beings except for yourself, unless you feel like your guardians are like the extension of yourself, like that they are also the aspects of you. You find the power within yourself in order to create that peaceful space from which, because in that quiet space you find your power, and from that point you can co-create beautiful things with others. So I listed a couple of things that that are kind of unobvious, I guess, to some of you. The situations when we may not realize that we break the free will of other living beings. So the first one is doing energy work for other people, and that also includes family members. So one thing is doing energy protections for others, unless you have a little child, like let's say like a 4 or 5-year-old. If you feel like his higher self or her higher self is giving the permission for that, you can do it. But we also have to allow everybody to have a space for their own experience. So if your child is already a teenager that can think for itself, why would you try to protect them from having a certain experience? So doing energy protections for your children when they are already adults, that is a breach of their free will. If they don't want to do it themselves, you have to accept that to some degree. And also something that that has been a struggle with me also in my work for a very long time. Can you actually work with the higher self of somebody? Like if this person agrees for a certain type of healing, but for example, it doesn't want to directly take part in the entire process. Well, that is also the breach of their free will, because once you're actually doing an energy work with someone, this person needs to be there during the whole process, and this person kind of needs to do it themselves as well. So this new age concept of let's do a healing facilitation for the higher self of this and that person, that is something that can really twist your field. And that is something that you should also express verbally. Like if you happen to know of any kind of case where somebody tried to do something like this for you, do not consent to that, and it will have no power. But nobody can do any kind of healing or energy work on you without your conscious permission and your physical presence during that process. So this is just something quite important to realize. Another breach of the free will of other living beings includes abortion, if that was after the 33rd day of conception. I see a question here. Yeah, I know that this is a very controversial topic. Why not send the protection with the condition that it serves the higher self? Okay, but what if the identity is supposed to learn through the experience? What if actually that person needs to learn to do it themselves? Everyone is self-responsible for their own energy field. So we learned to kind of keep looking at others like, I need to send a protection to that person because maybe she or he is going to benefit from it. Wouldn't the higher self be able to judge it? Yes, but why would we also? It's about the point of our attention, where we need to focus on creating our own energetic space. And after all, we are here to learn to be self-sufficient in this realm where it's much more difficult to be self-sovereign. But we learn to be able to be self-sovereign. And now when you're trying to protect others or open them up like this by trying to send them protections or healing energies, you're kind of trying to force the process that is going to happen for everybody in the divine right timing. So that means that if this soul is supposed to awaken in 300 years, because it planned to do so this way, then you really have nothing to say about that. Everybody has their own plan. It is not for us to judge what kind of experience someone has chosen for themselves. I'm gonna come back into that in a moment because I actually wrote like a wider explanation, but I wanted to finish about the abortion. So it is the breach of the free will after the 33rd day of conception, because between the 33rd and the 55th day after conception, that's when the spirit is directly tethering to the body. It's directly connecting its energy to the fetal body. So if the abortion takes place after the 33rd day, there is a risk that the soul has already connected to the body. The spirit, actually, the soul comes in later. And if somebody does that, the abortion after the 33rd day, there is a risk that this spirit essence is going to be hanging in your fields. And it will be waiting until the woman gets pregnant again. And that's when the spirit will be able to come once again. But I was once reading this story. I don't know whether that's true or not, but a woman did like 8 abortions in her life or something. And she just once had a dream where all of these souls were literally cursing her because she was doing all of this very, well, definitely not wisely. And these souls were very hurt, very upset. And well, that was like a very hard imprint that she had to work through. So this is just something when it comes to the breach of the free will. If you do it before, that is okay, because the spirit is just kind of hanging in your fields and waiting for the right time to connect with the fetal body. But if it happens later, well, that's something different. Okay. I see another question. I see that it really kind of triggered something. So what about the blessings in relation to the free will choice breach? A blessing is like a wish. And, well, my friend Caroline Tamik was speaking about wishes. So I recommend all of you to check out her videos where she was speaking about the wishes. But I treat the blessing as a wish. And now, the way I perceive it is that if you kind of say things like much love to you or have a great day, all of these nice things we say to each other, you send out a specific intention. And now you can take it or not, right? It's like if you say thank you, you're taking it. And you basically accept this energy of the good intention that someone sent to your fields. But now the question is, was it genuine? Because we tend to be always so perfectly not honest with each other. So if you say like, have a great day to someone, but you send out an intention like, oh, I really don't wish you that, I just say it, you need to be careful with what kind of blessings or wishes you accept. You need to feel whether that's genuine, because behind this really nice blessing or a wish, there could be like a very nasty intention hidden on the inside. So try to feel what kind of wishes or blessings someone is sending you, because some of them could be even death wishes. So that's my opinion on it. It's like you're just kind of sending somebody good energies, and they don't necessarily have to come from your field. Like when you're wishing somebody a great day or much love, right? You can kind of intend that this wish, this blessing is not, it's not that you are giving your energy away to that person, right? You're not sharing your love, but it's like you're basically sending the energy from the source to that person. And that higher self can take it or not, or more like the identity, because in that case, you either say thank you and you accept the blessing and you say, yeah, you too, right? And then it gets sent back as like a backflow return. But there is a big difference, because creating a protection is like a specific thing, right? You create like a specific energy bubble. It's supposed to protect them from this and this and this. While for me, in my feeling with the wish, with a blessing, it's a little bit different. And again, the way you send out the specific intention, right? And then this person can use this blessing, can use the energy of this blessing, of this wish, to create a protection for themselves. So it's only about like a specific energy work that you're looking into. So I hope this is more clear as I'm explaining that now. Okay, so how can I help others without breaking their free will? So this is a question that you may be kind of wondering about right now. So first of all, ask them if they want the help, because you never know the full picture of the individual. Everyone follows a different path, and we cannot interfere into their choices. Secondly, we should realize that we are also in co-creation. So when we do things together, it should be a learning experience for both sides. Nobody can activate your gifts or remove distortions for you, but they can help you find a way how to do it. So if you really feel like you're supposed to create a protection for someone, like let's say maybe someone is sick, you ask them directly, do you want me to create that protection bubble for you in certain occasions when they really cannot do that? And they can be like, yes, I would really love that if you could help me, and I will do my best to return the favor in the future. But you cannot do that unconsciously. That's what I meant for the whole time. You cannot just throw your energy everywhere for those that you care about, because maybe they don't want it for some reason. Nobody can activate your gifts or remove distortions for you. but they can help you find a way how to do it. Whenever we try to help others by clearing their karmic burden or protecting them from the evil, we actually take a part of their distortions on ourselves. In order to assist the rest of this life field with healing and realigning with the Christic spiral frequencies, we shall respect everyone's free will and realize that not all of the life field will go through the ascension path straight to the source. We may experience, for example, some plants or animals going extinct as a form of space dust back into the source fields. I don't know, this information came randomly, so some of the animals might disappear from the life field of the planet because they are just following a different path and they are not able to adjust to the frequencies that are coming to this planet. But basically, when it comes to helping others, it's the best if you show them the way how they can protect themselves. So they also become self-sovereign, so that they don't have to rely on you or on other people. You teach them how to do things. You are there to give them some advice, to show them how to do everything. It's co-creation, so we learn from each other, obviously, and we can all help each other. But it's the best that we help each other in a way so that you help someone and then this person knows how to do it, so that they are self-sovereign in the future, and then they can spread this knowledge also to others. And this way we are all learning and expanding and experiencing. Okay, so now here's like a very big question. How does the concept of the free will look like in the context of the circumstances on this planet? Our plane is in the state of planetary, solar, and galactic quarantine. However, unlike most of the Milky Way, our planetary quarantine zone is progressively being opened to... What did I say here? Our planetary quarantine zone is progressively being opened to other planes of the internal and the eternal creation. The planet's connection to Milky Way galaxy will not be restored due to its major structural distortions. However, Earth will open up to Andromeda galaxy. So there will be like literally like this tether cord, kind of like a bubble that will be created around this planet, and this planet will be kind of hosted out of this galaxy towards Andromeda. When it comes to the free will on this planet, there has been more and more breach of it as we progress through the time cycles on this planet. So now I will list a couple of major free will breach and imposed will distortions that kind of happened on a planetary level. So the first breach of the free will is that this road, this kind of road to this planet, it has only a one way. So you can enter this planet, but there is no direct return from it. So you can get in to this quarantine zone, but you cannot get out so easily, mainly due to the frequency fence surrounding the planet. So it's like they are bringing us here, and then they make us feel stuck, and then we are indeed stuck because it's difficult for our soul to get out because of that frequency fence, and then we try to break from it, and then parts of our quantum get kind of stuck. Literally, they get stuck in this frequency field, and that is causing another fragmentation. Another breach of the free will is channeling and higher dimensional distortions being projected out during your experience in the quarantine zone. The reason why this is a breach of the free will is because we are not really aware of anything here, and suddenly these angels speak to us. and they can really mess us around, and they don't really even tell you that there is something like the free will. They are just like, co-create with me and help me open this portal and do this and this and this. And they don't tell you that the power is in you. They are just deceiving you. So it is like a major breach of the free will. Another one is your soul contract being hijacked and put under the imposed Vatican laws and the martial law. The targeting campaigns. What is happening in the underground, that is also like a huge breach of the free will. And there's a lot of action taking place with that right now on the cosmic scale. And another breach of the free will is putting souls and incarnates on the fallen timelines. Unless you were doing some kind of black magic yourself on purpose, if you were doing certain things deliberately, obviously you kind of caused a mess on your timeline, but usually it's all a part of the larger targeting. Another one is a soul review, and why soul review is a breach of the free will. So normally it wouldn't be, but the thing is that when you are on your soul review, you have an access to only one lifetime, only to the lifetime that you've been through. So you don't hold memories about your past incarnations, about where your soul is coming from. So you have a very limited perspective why you were actually acting the way you did in that lifetime, why you've made certain choices, because they are all related to all of your past lifetimes as well. So this is like a very big manipulation, and then the souls get stuck in these loops of repeating the same lifetime. However, when it comes to what is not the breach of the free will, so the memory loss is not the breach, because we agree for that on a soul level. The ancestral imprint and the karmic wheel, these are also not, these are basically the decisions that we make on a higher self levels. The manipulation in these three aspects, the memory loss, the ancestral imprint, and the karmic wheel, the manipulation in them is that we were giving false beliefs about them, false concepts. So for example, the concept of the fact that you need to work through your karma, that you need to remove the curse from all of your ancestors, or you need to work through certain aspects of your life in order to become free from this matrix. No, you don't. This is a false belief. You actually don't have any karmic debt unless you believe that you do. There are only certain imprints that you need to clear from yourself in order to enable yourself a smooth experience. So this is something to be aware of when it comes to these aspects. So as you see, there's quite a bit of that free will breach in our system. Okay. So due to the environmental energetic contamination of this realm, planet Earth is holding both aspects of the wheel. We've got the free will, inherent to liberate ascension systems, and the imposed will, which is inherent to the false systems. The more we align with the Christic timeline, the more of the free will frequency will begin to activate on this planet, or actually like reactivate. The planet has already chosen to become one with the Christ star. Now we have to decide for ourselves. And a couple of words on the fallen angels and how they perceive that free will thing. The fallen angelic races often forget that even though the imposed will is a law in their twisted systems, they can always choose otherwise. It's like with this free will, it's like something that you cannot remove. It's like a law that is always with you. You can kind of block it. You can deny that it's not there, but it is always there with you. You can always make a choice. And so can these fallen angels. They can always choose to see the free being within themselves and stop being in limitation. We have been constantly suppressed by the fallen angelic races for centuries, with more and more of our free will taken away. However, these beings don't realize that they are in slavery themselves, forced to constantly search for energy supplies and fight for it against other fractions, instead of coming together and co-creating for everyone's highest good. So they are taking a lot of joy from imprisoning us, but actually on the inside, they are extremely sad because they are very limited themselves. And they get very angry when I say that because it's the truth. Okay. So now when it comes to the nice Christic beings, we've got a collective called the ELASA Tribunal Councils. And these ELASA Tribunal Councils, they come from the core of the Christ star, the core of Sun 8. So the ELASA Tribunal Councils are the keepers of Christic law, but they are not judges or lawyers in the way we understand it here. The mission of the Elasians is to bring the Christ law to all of the universal and cosmic systems. If the beings inhabiting a certain planet or a system decide to play against the rules of the Christ law, it is their free will choice to do so. The Elasian Tribunal Councils step in directly when the actions of the fallen beings directly breach the free will of other living beings, and when the entire Christ star is in danger of fall due to their actions. During the special cycle of the Christ star reset that is set in motion at very specific moments of the evolutionary cycles, that's when everything that exists, the entire creation, is coming back to the Sun 8 Christ star core for reset of their encryption and the quantum replenishment. The Elasians can set the Christ star reset in motion anytime at very specific circumstances. They are also referred to as the timekeepers, the Elasians. If the Christ star reset takes place, the Elasian councils once again introduce the opportunity to accept the covenant of the Christ law, so that every being in the universe has the free will choice to either come back to the Christ star source as space dust or as a fully conscious ascended being. The magistracy councils are smaller groups of the tribunal councils that assist the Elasians in reinforcing the Christic law to various parts of the universe. The original Emerald Covenant Agreement was just one of the many covenants that were aimed at creating a peaceful, harmonious cosmoverse where all beings support and co-create together, sharing a common purpose, creating all the best possible experiential outcome for everyone. And if you're that being that has like a big sense of justice in yourself, it is possible that you have a part of your aspects in the Elasian councils, and you just have that strong aim to bring that Christ law to everybody. So that's what the Elasians did at some point. They came in, I think that was in 2013, when that cycle started. And that's when the ELASA flame started to activate in the planetary core. And that's when the planets started to be actually under the protectorate of the Elasians. But it's not like they will suddenly come as the beings of light and suddenly just remove all the evil on the planet, but they will show us a way how we can progressively do that. Okay, so now we'll speak about these different concepts. What is destiny? What is purpose? What is coincidence? What is karma? What some people call destiny or purpose is the timeline that we are aligning with. Destiny or purpose may change depending on the decisions you make during your lifetime. Whenever you say that something is your purpose or your destiny, that gets sent out to your past, present, and future timelines. Your beliefs shape your reality. That's why it is good to be aware what kind of projection you're sending out to your reality. So once you actually start to think like, okay, this is what I want to do, make sure that it's the right thing, because then you have to kind of you need to kind of bring yourself back to the square one again. But you're getting a lot of different missions throughout different timelines. So it's not like you're going to do the same thing for a few different incarnations. Especially if you're having like multiple different lifetimes, there are different things that you'll be doing in order to work with different energies, with different encryptions, and have like a very rich experience. What is referred to as the coincidence or synchronicities, they are signs that are meant to show us with what kind of personal probability timeline we are aligning with. They can be a certain type of confirmation that we are on the right path, or a certain suggestion that maybe something is there in our life that we kind of need to look into. So there is really nothing such as an accident or a coincidence. Everything is a specific synchronicity that is supposed to also show you through your direct cognition, through direct life experience, that you are aligning with a certain probability, and you can take actions to either align with it more, or you need to take some actions to clear that energy. If it's chaotic, you need to clear it from your reality. And what is karma? That's what I've been speaking about a long time ago. Karma is a program running in the collective consciousness. And it's actually a program where we believe that we have to work through and suffer because of our mistakes. The karmic wheel is supposed to enslave us in the endless cycle of reincarnations. So the idea of the karmic debt has been inserted to many different belief systems in order to actually make us believe that we need to keep reincarnating in order to work through whatever problems we are going through. Okay, so how does that relate to the soul contract? And do you even have to like fulfill your soul contract? That is like a big question. So here's my answer to that. Take it or not. Your personal soul contract holds all the information about you and your set of incarnations that you have seeded into existence. Everyone has a soul contract and a certain set of purposes. Usually there is more than just one purpose for a variety of experiences. However, you have free will. You can fulfill your purpose, but you don't have to. In the cosmos, everything flows and constantly changes. The same case is with your personal path as an individual and larger family of consciousness. Anytime you want, you can make a decision what your mission is. And that can come through to other aspects of yourself. So as the universe is changing, as different frequencies are coming in, some of them are coming right from the God source fields, you may also receive a contract upgrade. That takes place especially in certain planetary circumstances where very ancient, powerful codes need to be reactivated on the planet, galaxy, or the entire universe. That's when the souls or fields of consciousness who receive the calling can choose to go beyond their original plan and expand the potential of their mission. So you can actually receive a certain upgrade of your contract, and that's what started to happen, I would say, especially after when the 21st century started, where many of us received upgrades of our anatomy. Some people started to awaken faster. I got my contract upgrade. If I didn't, I wouldn't be speaking now. I wouldn't awaken until 3 years later. So we received these different contract upgrades in order to kind of keep up with the changes that have been happening on universal, galactic, and planetary levels. But as I said, you don't have to fulfill your soul contract. You don't have to do that. If you don't, you kind of have to see what's next, because why are you having a purpose? Why is there a certain mission that you're supposed to do? This is something that you need to ask yourself, like, why actually I'm supposed to have a certain purpose? And if you're a Christic soul, the answer will come, well, I'm supposed to have a certain mission in order to help the entire planet, in order to help this collective to actually keep growing and keep expanding. And in order to get as many souls from the false systems as possible. And in order to do that, there needs to be different types of missions. It's not like not everybody will be a healer or a grid worker. We need people in different places on the planet so that they could spread their code, so that they could spread their frequency to the grids. So, and some of the souls actually just come here. And that's the case for many starseeds, where they come here for a certain experience. And then they get entangled in different dramas, in different conflicts, and they get stuck. So some of you, if you're having that feeling like, well, I don't even feel like I'm supposed to be here, that's coming from the fact that maybe you're on this planet for way too long. And it's hard for you to find your purpose or what you're looking for because your soul contract also has been taken somewhere else. So this is when it comes to the purposes. Everybody has one. Even though if you're on a fallen timeline, it can be difficult for you to find one. But as you start to shift yourself from the fallen timeline towards the Christic one, you start to discover more and more of your purposes. And that brings us to a question: when is this free will law going to start functioning on this planet? Because as we know right now, it is there. You can still decide for yourself in certain aspects, however, not fully. So this is my answer to that I got today. We are in a cycle where the planet has decided that it is time for it to return back to the crystal. Before it fully happens, we will, and we already are, receiving waves of plasma energy quantum. that is supposed to accelerate and upgrade our anatomy, but also make the clearing faster. This planet, through the path of the host, is releasing very powerful energy streams that help the entire life field in this transition process. The free will, in its immaculate expression, will come to this realm once all of the blockages will be lifted off. Like the planet needs to stop being a prison. Because right now, it is a prison with toxic air, toxic food, and whatever you do, it may kind of harm you in some ways. One of the reasons why it won't happen instantly is because we aren't in this stage for it to happen yet. If the planet raised its frequencies too fast, we wouldn't have enough time to properly adjust our bodies to these changes. If the planet closed all of the gateways to phantom systems, we wouldn't have access to get these. We wouldn't have access to get there and assist the fragments of our souls to get out. If you're still having an aspect of yourself there, just this transition process is like a puzzle game. Your integration on a personal level assists the rest of the planetary life field to also integrate themselves. This is what the entire co-creation is really about. We do this together, and we need to do this progressively, because if it all happened so suddenly, we would have way too quick Earth changes and we wouldn't be able to adjust properly. Well, this is supposed to be a path where we don't fly to the future and suddenly find ourselves in a different realm. We need to ground all of these high frequencies plasma here in order to transform this planet, this realm, into the median Earth plane. So that's how we are going to do it. The Christic society is a synchronistic society. All of its members are perceived as conscious creators who express the divine will of the Aya God Source. Everyone is treated equally, and there is also a sense of understanding that there are no mistakes. Everyone has a space for their own experience. In Christic societies, there is no need for gurus or leaders or governments. Everyone is doing the best work they can for the entire society. We'll be shifting from all of the government control systems to the local support communities, co-creating more with nature and giving us more space for self-expression. As the global systems will seem to collapse, we'll be experiencing more and more of the expansion of these local Christic communities. And also these local communities will become a base for the new society that will be emerging, the society of the median Earth. So we start to get there. Like that vision is there on our future timeline, and we are going towards it. We just cannot expect it to happen within a week. But as you become more and more self-sovereign, you start to realize that the old tricks don't work anymore, and that you start to feel more freedom within yourself. And this way, you don't have to struggle so much with this context of justice, because you kind of know within yourself that this justice will come. Okay, so now I will explain how does the free will relate to the children. Where is that borderline? Since I also received a couple of questions about this. When a child is still growing in the mother's womb, and until about 6 years of age, the child is mostly in the energy of his mother, of his or her mother. This means that all sorts of attachments, distortions, or imprints are being directly passed on the child. However, at the same time, if the mother decides to take active steps towards her own self-healing, this will also positively affect the child. There are certain boundaries of what the mother can do, though. During that period of the mother and the child's energetic fields being directly connected, any kind of energy protection is partially passed over to the child. So when a mother is doing like a bubble around herself, the child is also receiving, like, let's say, like a subharmonic of that bubble because of the energetic exchange between their fields that takes place. After that period of time, it is good to realize that despite the urge to always protect your beloved one, a mother should give the child a space for its own experiences. It is crucial to realize that in the little body of a baby, a toddler, or a teenager, there is a soul. There is a soul that is very wise and very conscious. It is a soul that chose this incarnation to learn and experience something that may be very important for their growth. A parent can advise or speak from its own personal experience, whether something is good or bad, but the final decision should be in the hands of the child. When it comes to the vaccinations, like if you vaccinated your child, or you kind of wonder whether you're supposed to do that, like what is the will of the soul here, whether the soul decides for that vaccination or not. So I would say that in case of vaccinating the child, and this is only theoretical, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not educated at all, I'm just speaking from what my eternal self is telling me. You can always cancel this decision, not allowing it to happen, from the perspective of the past timeline. So if you vaccinated your child and you feel like, well, that wasn't a good decision after all, I would like to change it, you can do that by kind of coming back with your memory to that moment when you were just about to allow for that to happen, and you just don't allow for that, right? You just imagine that, for example, you take your child away from the hospital and you don't allow for this act to happen. And that already sets the child and you on a different timeline. And from my perspective, it won't be a breach of the child's free will, since once they are old enough, they will be able to decide for themselves. So it's not like they are missing out on anything. If your child in the future decides like, oh, I should have taken that vaccine, there will be tons of doctors that will be happy to give it to them. But as for now, you make that decision yourself. And it's easier to do something than to cancel it. So this is my perspective on the vaccination of the child. You can also, if you're a bit more intuitive, you can try to tune in what is the free will of that little soul that incarnated into the body, and that should also give you some clues whether it's a part of their experience or not. All right, so that's my perspective when it comes to the free will and the children. And now we'll just speak a little bit. I just want to save that topic of these vaccinations and how it relates to the free will for the end. So I'm going to first mention what is that concept with this free will choice being an illusion, like where did it really come from? So obviously the free will is not an illusion. Without the free will, we would never be able to take active actions towards changing or improving our life. Our life circumstances, our job, people we come across in our life, our home, etc., All of our life circumstances are a collective sum of all of the experiences we have had throughout different lifetimes. We always have a free will choice to take the destiny into our hands and make a conscious decision to change our life path. The concepts of no free will or destiny that you cannot escape have been artificially inserted into the collective consciousness field in order to make us feel helpless and make us lose the sense of connection with our inner power. Since you are the most powerful being yourself, you can have control over your own destiny. The reason why we don't sometimes is because of certain projections or distortions coming from other simultaneous timelines. You won't be able to control your destiny until you don't realize that everything depends on you. The only opening that can be created to control your life are targeting imprints, and they mainly involve setting you on the fallen timeline. And it actually starts with you expressing your will first. If you figure out, like, wait, there were difficulties when I was born. I had a terrible childhood. I suffered a lot in my adult life. And I just want this to end. You have to start with expressing the will, like, I do not consent to that. I do not consent to all of these manipulations anymore. Like, I just don't play this game any longer. I do not agree for all of these different manipulations, and I intend to start clearing all of them. And it may take you some time to clear everything, but you begin from a certain base, and it starts to you expressing your will, that once you manage to finally figure that out, you do not consent for any more manipulations. And actually expressing that will might give you a very big sense of relief. It may kind of start to help you get back that inner sense of freedom. The only opening that can be created to control your life are targeting imprints, as I said, and the openings in the mental and emotional body that can go very deep, from small miasm to infiltration. Because our bodies, they can create shadows, they can create demons, and that's where all of these phobias, manias are coming from the different thought forms that literally become beings in our body later. So the energetic shift must always go along with the mind. And when it comes to all of these different interference coming from other simultaneous timelines, you have to realize that the reason why it's happening is that everything is in the now. So if you were, let's say, if you were killed during the witchcraft and they've been chasing you for a long time, well, you are still being chased, and that frequency of hiding and fear and trying to run away is still running through your body, and you may feel interference in this life because that is still taking place. Or if you had some lost pregnancies, and after that you've been through like a really big trauma, well, that could be also messing with your feminine energy if you're a woman. So if we look at it this way, everything happens in the now, then why are you complaining that there's so many things that are interfering your life if they are all coming from all of these different timelines? But start with this life first. If you feel like there are some aspects of the inner child that you didn't integrate, you need to do that, because they will be trying to hit right in that weak spot. And sometimes we need to learn through experience, we need to get some interference on the way, and then we are like, oh, it was coming from that moment, so now I need to integrate that. This helps sometimes to learn on your lessons, but in general, once you decide to start the process of your own self-healing, it's good for you to look into these different aspects of yourself and asking yourself simple questions. Where is this blockage coming from? Why I cannot succeed? Are there any thoughts in my mind that actually don't allow me for that? Okay, so now, when it comes to this reality being an experience or an experiment, I would say that it's actually both an experience, but also an experiment. So this reality itself is an experiment of the fallen angelic races, but at the same time, it is an experiential challenge of the God source. On one hand, everything may feel so wrong about this world and the way it is orchestrated. The fact that we are here without any memory of our larger identity, we feel homeless on the planet that feels like a prison, because it is one. And let's be honest, sometimes this reality really sucks. However, the reason why we agreed to take on so much burden on ourselves was because we wanted to help retrieve all the lost souls that have got fragmented after the fall of Gaia. Because actually it's like we had the fall of Tara 550 million years ago, but before that Gaia fell, and before that Aramatena fell. So it's like we experienced a lot of different falls and fragmentations, and that's why it went so far. It all came from the primordial love and care that we actually decided to get these aspects of ourselves. I'm just trying to kind of go through it because I think this sentence is way too long and now I got lost myself, so just a second. So that rescue mission came from this primordial love and care we had for those aspects of us who didn't receive the chance to fully experience the external creation fields of the Crystar, and we wanted to give them a chance to be able to co-create with us. So basically we came here for this rescue mission to enable all these souls that didn't get a chance to have like a full experience here with the full spectrum of the free will. We basically came to help them get it back. Even though once we went on this mission and many of us got stuck here ourselves, we had to fall as low as they did so we could rise up again. Some of us came here to this realm to get back a quantum of ourselves. The others took on a part of the environmental distortions to be able to exist in this reality and help others get out. Even though this is a very difficult experience, we should realize that the reason why we decided to be a part of this experiment is that it has a deeper meaning. It's about enabling all those fragmented souls a chance to go home, whether that soul fell during the time of Gaia or Tara or Aramatena. It's been millions of billions of years, so it's time to get all of them back, right? And that's where this feeling of nostalgia may be coming from. We have been here for so long, and the story has been repeating itself. So if you're sensing this feeling in you, like, I've been here for so long and I just don't know how to get out, that is at some point natural, because it's the feeling that many souls are actually having. And now I'm going to get to that topic to which I felt a little bit of resistance, because I know that it's pretty much controversial. And again, it's like It's purely theoretical. I'm just sharing my perspective on this. Whether taking this magical elixir, this vaccine, I guess I can say it because we are on free media, but let's hope that YouTube is also going to accept this video when I will be posting it. Whether, like, how does it relate to the free will? And I have like a really long reading in here, and honestly, I don't even remember what I wrote down in here. I just kept writing like this constantly for about 20 minutes, and that's how the answer came out. So I'm gonna be discovering it along with you right now, and probably just kind of making breaks in between to kind of expand on something if I think that something that suddenly comes to my mind is important. So it was a choice that has been made on a soul level even before we really incarnated into this timeline. So the decision has been made before. It was actually something that we decided based on our frequency level, whether we would be able to hold enough frequency in ourselves to remain sovereign and not allow to have our DNA damaged or not. So what I mean by that, the frequency level, because we've been here for so long, because there's been so many pandemics before, because there's been so many theoretically genocide agendas, that has set like a big imprint in our soul matrix. And now, whether you were holding a lot of that huge imprint in yourself, it was like a decision that was being made. Do I hold enough frequency to be able to be self-sovereign or not? Because all of these different bioweapons, they are supposed to just take the freedom out of our hands. Obviously, they are supposed to make us absolutely blind and just kind of make us lose our logical thinking. I mean, why would you do that in the first place? It was just a flu. What is happening right now is much worse when it comes to the shedding effect and the fact that, as I said before, I think this elixir has been invented in the underground basis before, so like they very much knew what they were giving to us. They were seeing the side effects, and I don't even want to talk about it because I just keep seeing all of these body deformations as I speak about it. So it's been something that they were aware of when they were giving this to us, and now it's a matter of the fact whether we were able to fill out this encryption of deception or not. And that is related to our frequency level, whether you can feel. And it's not about being clairvoyant or anything like that. It's about being able to feel the frequency of the truth, the frequency of the authentic encryption. But if you're having a lot of filters put on yourself, then you kind of struggle to feel what is true or not. So that's pretty much what I mean by the frequency level. In cases where we were forced to do that, which is the imposed will, the breach of the free will, there is a conflict between identity and the soul. This conflict can be healed on a spiritual level by clearing the imprint of this elixir from your DNA and your personal timeline. If you did this consciously and realized that it was wrong after time, it may suggest that there is an aspect of yourself that never really wanted that on the first place, and it's trying to reawaken you. Like, basically, this aspect is trying to reawaken you and say, hello, enough of lessons, enough of learning, now it's time for you to get up and take the power into your hands. If you also participated in massive vaccinations in the past, like the Spanish flu, or I think during the cholera pandemic, they were also giving vaccines, or if you've been a victim of certain experimentations in the past, it may be this imprint that attracted you in the first place. However, if there was a situation where you took this elixir with full consciousness of what it is, there is a direct law of consequence working here. So if you went to take it and you were like, yeah, I know that it's bad, but I'm just like, I'm strong enough, nothing will happen to me. Not exactly. If that was some kind of heavy metal thing or whatever. But this is a thing that directly goes into your DNA template. In a moment, I will say what it is doing. So bear with me. In this realm, we do things very blindly. Most of us don't even consider connecting with their core eternal self, their soul, their cosmic aspects, or just with their intuition when they are about to make a very important life-changing decision. Because of the planetary amnesia that we suffer from, we were taught, or more like programmed, to use our intellect only when it comes to decision making. So we would only think with our intellect that has been programmed, not without using this intuitive aspects of ourselves. If we decide for something with the full consciousness of the consequences, we need to be aware that the consequences will manifest directly in our lives. In this realm, these rules work exactly in the same way, even though we are not always fully aware of the consequences that such action may bring. However, this is something that on a soul level we agreed for when we decided to enter this experience. So we agreed for this amnesia, so it's also about the fact that we try to navigate in a place where we don't always know everything. But as we start to remove all these different filters, we start to become more aware how we can manage with all of this chaos going on around us. And now what I'm gonna say about the genocide agenda. I'm not talking about the planet Earth, I'm just talking about the planet that I made up in my mind. So this is not even really true. As you know, guys, I like to make stories, so this is just another story that was given to me. Of course, it is the undeniable fact that the genocide agenda, theoretically, has been going on for a very long time now. These actions have been taken after the global Tartarian reset at the end of the 18th century, and they have accelerated after the Second World War, when most of these experiments have been moved underground. Development of HARP, starving, or poisoning out our foods and are examples of many actions that have been taken against us. Even if we think that we are not receiving this influence directly, some of us may get it through our clones or other aspects of ourselves. These fallen groups perfectly know that we are multidimensional beings living in different space-time vectors. And I want to mention that because I've been having a couple of cases of people connected to the Starlink project and this new weird, how is that called? Neuralink that Elon Musk started testing out. So I literally had a lady that was directly having like a clone of herself already implanted with the Neuralink. So that is very strange I mean, it doesn't really surprise me, but the thing is that we can think that, yeah, we are just kind of talking about conspiracy theories, but theoretically, these things are there. And before they actually release that, they are doing all sorts of experimentations. Some of them are openly spoken about, but usually they are very well hidden. So that's just something I would like to mention. You have to just wipe out all of your clones. If we want to clear ourselves from all of the bioweapons our body carries, detoxing or having a healthy diet is not enough. It is good, but it is not enough. We need to work on decreasing the interference that is coming through our clones and other quantum that has been stolen. Retrieving back our lost energy quantum equals getting back the vital force to the body. This is an invisible war and partially invisible genocide agenda. If you want to find the core of your disease, search for it in your DNA template. Souls which have decided for a vaccination have made a decision about themselves. It is not like they are going to fall, but they will have to go through this experience in other way. So they may experience this reality where everything is becoming like digitalized and everything is controlled by AI. So it's like they are aligning with a specific probability from which they will still be able to escape from for some time. But when we decided not to do that, we were like, well, that's it. We are just following the Christic timeline, right? What this elixir does on a spiritual level is that it puts a block on the heart chakra. So it cuts you off from the astral space, which allows for the infiltration of the astral body. And it blocks the third eye. It also goes directly to the DNA template and starts disconnecting you from the organic personal memory matrix. The identity may feel depressed and isolated as it starts to disconnect from its core spirit. So that's what is taking place. When it comes to the shedding effect, it is also having an impact, but not as much as the actual elixir. It is more like a result of us living in an environment that is becoming more and more contaminated. So what we need to do is to increase our immune systems so that they have enough power to transmute these toxic, lethal substances. So the shedding effect is definitely a thing. We know that without any kind of doubt. It's spreading and we don't even have to be doctors in order to be able to see that. But I would say that this is much more easier to cure because still you didn't receive the direct poison into your body. Okay, so this is pretty much everything that I prepared when it comes to the free will. I hope that it was helpful to some of you when it comes to kind of seeing where the boundaries are in your co-creation in this reality. And I kind of finished off with a sad accent, with like something which was quite sad, but I think that we can see it as a different way, that we are actually to some degree, I do agree with people who say that we are in a simulation, because to some degree it feels like it. I had that period of my life last summer where I would be waking up every day and I open my eyes and I'm like, well, it's not real. It doesn't feel organic. And I even had that like small frustration within myself, like, why am I here on the first place? As if I had that kind of moment of the confusion. So if you start to kind of feel like it, like you wake up and you're like, well, this is just unreal. Like, I don't get it. you're not alone. You're not the only one. And this feeling might increase because the energies that we are dealing with right now, the positive energies, they are causing this feeling that we are still in a certain field where we are not able, I don't know, to fly with our angelic wings straight away, but we can activate our angelic wings on the plasma body level, and we can already start moving them and starting to get like a subtle feel of them. So there are many beautiful things coming up. And well, I guess with that, I will just say, just like I said last week, all of those that are listening on Rumble, go ahead and if you enjoyed that video, you can give a like or share a comment and follow the channel directly so that the whole platform could keep growing, as there are a lot of different open-minded people here who want to share their truth. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.